Here's an elevator pitch. Star Trek on a pirate ship. Same cast, same plot lines, but instead of our outer reaches of Deep Space Nine, everyone's cruising around the Caribbean. What's that? Aw, come on, it's got potential, right? All right. We'll talk about that later. The point I'm making is that setting informs a story as much as the characters do. Change a setting and you change the entire story. That's because the where of a story gives off a certain personality, just as much as the who and the what. The elements of location, environment, and unique time and place shape everything. If you think about it, the same holds true of your brand's story. While location may not be everything, it touches every aspect of your brand's story and identity. If you think about your history, your values, the obstacles you've faced, and the connections you've made, none of it takes place in a vacuum. The place where you set up shop matters more to your brand identity than you might think. Forget setting and you ignore a huge chunk of what makes your organization remarkable. So what's your brand's setting? Is it local, regional, global? One thing you often find out when you're getting to know someone is where they're from. And sometimes it's not just one place. If you think about it, many people are from at least two places. First, the place where they grew up, the city or community where their formative years were spent. Somebody who grew up in the Midwest probably has a different sense of normal than someone who grew up in Los Angeles. Second, the place where they currently live. Someone living in a rainy Seattle has to adapt to a different environment than someone living in sunny Phoenix. In the same way, your organization may have started somewhere and then moved its headquarters. Or like us, maybe you've just stuck around. Either way, when your customers get to know your brand story, they'll get a feel for the values and the flavor of the place where your business started, and they'll probably pick up on where it's currently headquartered, whether that's the West Coast, the South, a city like Chicago, or a rural community somewhere else. You probably know a ton about where you came from, but if you're not sure how that setting influences your company's day-to-day life, do a little digging and ask yourself, how do your employees spend their Saturdays? Do they bike to work, drive, work remotely, or commute by train? What does your local business culture celebrate? What holidays or times of the year does your team look forward to? These may seem like mundane details, but they're pretty good indicators of the tastes, habits, and motivations of everyone that you work with. More than that, they're raw ingredients of your brand's story and core identity. Scene setting as part of your brand story means owning it, and not allowing it to be a limiting factor that conforms you to everyone else. Even while it sets you apart, setting can be so baked into your identity that it becomes a challenge to stand out from the values, ethics, and business culture around you. If you're not careful, a tech startup from Silicon Valley might start to look and feel like every other tech startup from Silicon Valley. Branding should be intentional, something that shows up in behavioral traits, conversation, and everyday interactions. If it's artificially borrowed from your surroundings, then it's easy to dismiss. Just like a Texas company that thinks it has to have cowboy boots in its logo just to blend in with the herd. Becoming more conscious of your setting doesn't mean making a big deal of it, unless it really is a big deal. But it does mean recognizing the way that setting shapes your culture, your history, story, and your interactions with the world. In the end, knowing your setting inside and out means using it to craft a thoughtful brand expression. Consider the ways that Whole Foods or Bass Pro Shops make their individual stores reflect the vibe, flavor, and personality of where they're located. At the same time, the underlying brand identity stays consistent. Whether you're in Dallas or Boston, a Whole Foods looks like a Whole Foods. So when all's said and done, your brand setting is no small piece of the pie. We hope this video gets you thinking about where you come from, where you operate, and how those locations can go a long way in helping you show a remarkable brand story to everyone you meet. If this part of our series piques your interest, join us next month as we explore setting as a time and place in history, a perspective that opens up more avenues to understand your brand story and identity. And remember, you can check out more resources in our book on brand building, You Are Remarkable, written by me and a few other guys. And now, back to the Star Trek pitch.